Hmong history. Lesson 1. Learning history from the Hmong point of view. Hmong history presented herein may not agree with the new redefined history of China, but it is to preserve Hmong history and Hmong heritage. To understand Hmong history, we must understand that Hmong is now an Asian ethnic. What is considered to be Asians? Which part of the world are considered to be Asia? Northern Asia, Eastern Asia, Southern Asia, Central Asia, and Western Asia. Throughout history, there were migrations between these regions. Migrations also took place between the Asian Pacific Islands and mainland Eastern Asia. Before 5,000 years ago, it's not clear to where Hmong came from. Possibly it is a combination of what we see in this map. From archaeological evidences and cultural point of view, people from India and Southern Asia were expanding into the area of present-day southwestern China and southern China. At the same time, there were Asian civilizations in the central and in the north. As the Southern Asians pushed eastward into the middle Yangtze River Basin, the indigenous people were pushed northward. Ma-Yi culture gradually developed as they occupied the eastern sea of the Yangtze River Delta. Notice the white area and black area. Keep in mind that these are two very different people during that time, Black Asians and white Asians. The confrontation and struggle between these two main groups will be our focus as we learn about Hmong history. The Black Asians then expanded northward into the Yellow River Basin. Based on available literatures, there were three main groups during that time. One was led by Yangti. The southern group was led by Qiu, and the northern group was led by Fanti. Qiu overthrew Yangti from power and ruled for some time. Some historians and scholars believe Qiu was a servant to Yangti, who rebelled and took control. Qiu's people was known as Jiuli, meaning the 9 black tribes. They were the 9 Yi groups, or Ma-Yi people. Ma-Yi is known under Hmong as Ma-Yi. Qiu's main home is believed to be in northern Shandong. He was making war and attacking Fanti's people to the north after Yangti sought help from Fanti. Once Fanti killed Xinyu Qiu, the Jiuli, or 9 Yi tribes, fled out of the Yellow River Basin. Most emigrated south. Jiuli was then known as Sangmiao or Samiao. The majority was the Nanman and Baiye, also part of Dongyi. After Fanti took control, he incorporated Yangti's people into the Hmong nation known as Hmong. Hmong is Saint Hmong, which means the beginning of Hmong nation. In present-day Mandarin language, it means the alliance between vassal states. When Fanti's descendants took control of the lower Yellow River, they were known as Hmongshi. The two groups of people living at the lower Yellow River during that time was Hmongshi and Xuanshi. Xuanshi, according to Hmong elders, were the left behind Jiuli that integrated with Hmongshi people. Hmong kingdom ended when Shantung led a rebellion against King Jie. Shantung or Zilu founded the Yin country, known as Yinguo. Yinguo, the Shang Dynasty, was a period when Samiao people to the south came back to live at the Yellow River. Notice the area is highlighted yellow. Hmong was then known as Rome to the northwest, who came back and took control again during the end of Shang Dynasty. Yinguo or Shang Dynasty then became Zhou Dynasty. Zhou was ruled by Hmong people. During that war, some Miao people helped Shang government. So Mong under Zhou banished those San Miao into Gansu in Sanwei region. Zhou was Hmong people. Later, they took on many clan names. They developed into many states, and the union among those states was known as Mongol. According to Sima Chang, the northerners were known as Beidi, the westerners known as Xirong, and the easterners were the Dongyi, and the southerners were the Nanman. This is from Chu and Shu Han point of view. During this era, Dongyi, meaning Eastern Yi, which they were Man Yi people as well, just like Nanman were Man Yi. Some Miao who were banished into the Sanwei Gansu region was also known as Man Yi people. It is clear that Jiuli, the ancient Yi, developed into some Miao, which the majority became Nanman, Baiye, and Dongyi. Baiye lived among the Nanman to the south and southeast. Shu and Ba to the southwest were part of the southern nation, mainly Samiao nation. Zhou developed into Jing, Yang, Qi, Zheng, Chen, Yu, and other states. These names are now being pronounced under present-day Mandarin language. After Jing broke up into 3 states, Zhou, Wei, and Han, Zhou then was known as one states period. In the northwest, Ma Yi of Sammiao migrated back to the east. With the Xirong and the western Zhou, they developed into Qing state. Qing became very wealthy and powerful. Qing first took control of Shu and Ba, and then they began to attack the east and the north. Those who fled into the north became known as Xiongnu, who joined the Donghu and other Mongol states of the Yellow River Basin to repel Qing. They were the Hmong alliance. Gradually, Qing took control of all the remaining states at the Yellow River Basin and into the south. Qing ordered the destruction of the western and southern Great Walls that Mongol built to guard against Qing and Chu. Qing then extended the northern wall to keep out the rebels. Notice the white circle of the Yellow River Basin was shifted into the north. Mongol of the Yellow River Basin then was moved into the north. They were generally known as Donghu, Xihu, Xiongnu, and the western flank was known as Yezhi. Xiongnu were known to go by Mong. Many of them were refugees from the Yellow River Basin. Not long after Qing took control of Nanman and Baiye regions, Chu Man, Ma Yi began to rebuild against Qing. The Chu emperor promised to the generals that whoever conquered Qing's capital first would become king of that region. 2 of the main Chu generals were Xiang Yu and Liu Bang. While Xiang Yu was attacking the Yellow River areas, Liu Bang led his troops to Xi'an and took control of the capital. Xiang Yu didn't do what the Chu emperors had promised. Instead, Xiang Yu decided for Liu Bang to rule the Ba and Shu regions. Not long, Liu Ban blamed Shang Yu for the death of Chu's emperor. He then attacked Shang Yu positions to the east, while Shang Yu was fighting the rebels at the Yellow River. Liu Ban retreated after Shang Yu came back and agreed to a peace treaty to divide Chu into Eastern Chu and Western Chu, which Liu Ban would rule Western Chu. Part of the agreement was also to release Liu Ban's father, who were captured by Shang Yu's troops. The peace treaty was agreed, and Shang Yu's troops were overjoyed and not being prepared. Liu Ban launched surprise attacks and captured many of Shang Yu's troops. From there, Liu Ban was able to deceive and eliminate Shang Yu. He became the supreme leader and called himself Han for being a macho man. Han then was beginning to be used by other followers. Therefore, the name Han gradually became used for a nation name called Hanko. As we can see, Han, a new national name, was controlled by Chu and Shu, mainly the Mang Yi and Bai Ye. Eastern Yi, Dong Yi, was also part of that conquest. They took on a new national name, Han. This is where the name Han as a nation came from. Hanko was to the south, and Mongol was to the north. But Hanko addressed Mongol as Xiongnu, Rong, and Hu. It is clear that under Hmong Xiongnu, they went by Mongol as a country. Those people were refugees from the Yellow River Basin. Xiongnu had a civil war in the Donghu region and broke into two divisions. One continued to be known as Xiongnu to the west. Those who stayed behind in Donghu area then became known as Xianbei. Both Xiongnu and Xianbei were known to be associated with the name Mong. To the far east were the Moji, or simply Jie. Once Liu Ban took control and started to attack the northern front, Qing people also fled west and northward, which they became part of the Mongol or the Hu nation. They were known as Chang and part of the five Hu alliances. Because of the unrest since the Warring States up until the Han Dynasty, Hmong were pushed out into the northern plains. During the short Qing Dynasty, Qing went back to worship Qiu as their ancestor. Once Chu Han took control and became Han Dynasty, they too made Qiu as their ancestor. Qiu culture, mainly the Mang Yi culture. Dong Yi, which is the Eastern Yi culture, as well as Han culture, were Mang Yi culture. They spoke the Mang language during that time. Hmong worshipped Fangdi, and Hmong culture was Xia culture of the Mongol nation. Xia Hmong people were mostly pushed into the north. Due to the continue of warfare, the western flank of Hmong Xiongnu gradually into Central Asia. This is Hmong history. Lesson 1. Until next time, we will learn more on how Hmong migrated back into the Yellow River Basin and from north to south when Hmong were involved from the 16 kingdoms up until Qing Dynasty. Hmong created multiple kingdoms which have been forgotten. We will learn more on the struggle between the northerners, Hmong culture, and the southerners, Mang Yi culture.